You're listening to How to 20-something, the best podcast that helps both men and women navigate their 20s and learn how to adult across all aspects of their lives. We're going to focus on career, relationships, finances, fitness, nutrition, and all of the common challenges and obstacles a typical 20-something will face in this post-college life. I'm your host, Jess Diamond, and I am the CEO and founder of Jess Diamond Coaching, where I help young professionals get their shit together, gain their confidence, and own their life. No one prepares you for this adulting world, so allow me to help you feel like you are no longer a chicken running around with its head cut off, and that you actually know what the hell is going on and what your next step to take is. Welcome to How to 20-something. Welcome back to another episode of How to 20-something, where today I'm going to be sharing how I left the corporate world, how I've helped my clients do so too, and how you can, if that's what you're aspiring to do. I get asked all the time how I did it, how I left the corporate world and am still standing with my head above water nearly 3 years later. And because I was successful with my transition out, I attract a lot of other 20-somethings who want to create this life for themselves as well. So if you're listening to this and are thinking, hey, that's me, I want to build up my life and future to also successfully make the transition to doing my own thing, then please head to the show notes and click the link that says Let's Chat, because I know I'd be a great coach to helping you get started. Because, as you'll hear soon enough, this is not a path you can do by yourself. At least, this is not a path you can successfully do by yourself and keep your head properly screwed on at the same time. I think anyone can be self-employed. However, I don't believe the self-employed life is for everyone. It's tough. It takes a lot of patience, dedication, planning, and trust to do. Patience in the process, dedication to the work you're doing, especially if you're not seeing much of a return, planning for what your day looks like, and trust in your ability to be successful and that the universe, or insert whomever your higher power is, has your back. I left my full-time job on my 25th birthday back in 2022. On March 7th, 2022, I handed in the keys and laptop to my full-time in-office job, collected my belongings from my desk, and left the premises, and have never looked back. But what you don't see is the year and a half of planning that went into this decision, or even the struggle that came with the first year out. I've shared my story on here before, and I mentioned parts of it in several different episodes, but long story short, if this is your first episode you are ever tuning into, I was unemployed for 6 months during the pandemic, where I found my first passion in personal training and was ready to leave the corporate life behind right then and there to pursue that career path. My mom was afraid this was an impulsive decision and told me to go get a real job again, but don't worry, she came around to supporting my dreams eventually. But at that 6-month mark of being unemployed, I accepted a new position at a local residential design firm with the mission to get out and be able to be a personal trainer full-time. I realized my mom was right. Don't tell her I said that. But I needed to think this decision through a little more and accrue some savings, as I had just spent the better half of the year with no to very little income. So from September of 2020 to January of 2021, I was working a 9-to-5 in office because it was in Florida, so we were open by June of 2020. And either before or after work, I would personal train. I spent my free time exploring different degrees or certifications that would support this transition, so I wasn't solely relying on personal training for an income, since at the time it was not considered to be a high-paying job, which it's not technically speaking, but you can make a decent living off of it if you're at the right gym, if you have the clientele, and if you're a good trainer with a high retention rate. But that's besides the point, because you're not listening to this episode to be a full-time personal trainer. By January 2021, I settled on getting a new certification, and it was a coaching one. This decision came about because going back to school to be a registered dietitian, an athletic trainer, or a nutritionist, which were kind of the path I was pursuing or looking to pursue, I wasn't pursuing it at that time, would put me in an extreme amount of debt and would be very, very difficult to do, considering I had zero prerequisites for those majors. And I also didn't know if this was the direction I really wanted to go with my career. It was just something I was interested right then and there. What I wanted in that moment was to be a personal trainer and not put the fate of my income in the market, the world, or in someone else ever again. It makes sense that I wanted to do my own thing because all throughout growing up, I would get asked the, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" question, and I would respond with, "A CEO." I don't even know if I fully knew what a CEO meant, but what I did know is that I would follow up my answer with saying, "I don't want anyone to be the boss of me. I want to be the boss of me." And to all of my other younger siblings out there, I'm sure you can relate to that feeling, at least to some extent. Anywho, in January 2021, I found 2 coaching certifications that I was interested in, but not ready to invest the $4,500 in them, as I had some other stressors and expenses going on at that time. But by March of that year, I was ready to go. And by April, I was beginning my journey towards becoming a certified health and life coach. So from April to November of that year, I was studying, I was personal training, I was keeping up with my full-time job in office, 9 to 5. I was trying to make a long-distance relationship work. And by August, I was taking on coaching clients of my own. The moment I began that certification in April was also when I started telling people that when my lease is up at the end of March, I am packing my bags, quitting my job, and pursuing my business full-time in Charlotte. The certification was to last 6 months, leaving me 5 months to build up my business or at least get things started. The planning that had to occur during this time was intense. It's my first piece of advice for you. You have to plan. I was saving as much as I could, which meant not buying anything extra, not taking any fun trips, not going out to eat or drink on the weekends. And it also meant creating a savings goal based on what I had in April to what I thought I could save by the following March. You see, I was always on top of my finances, so I had an up-to-date budget sheet where I knew based on the previous 6 months how much I could add to my bank account with every paycheck. So my goal was to have 2 years worth of living expenses saved up to carry me through the unknowns of being self-employed. I'll let you create your own number based on that 2-year timeline. That was my emergency fund. That was my just in case I didn't make anything in my business for a very long time kind of emergency fund. However, I also knew that I wouldn't let myself go more than 1 month without making anything, whether it was from my business or from a side job I needed to pick up, which is actually what I did. And it's how I started working at F45 once I got settled in my new city and spent that first month adjusting to this new unknown. Other planning I had to do during these 11 months was plan out my weekly schedule, so I still had time to take care of myself with working out, eating right, and sleeping, because we need those things. And I had to plan out my weekends, which for this time of my life were mostly filled with catching up from the week and setting up for the week ahead. Basically, most of those weekends from April of 2022 to March of 2023 were spent grinding and recovering. But I did make sure I blocked out time to be a 24-year-old. And that looked like committing to my business and health Friday nights through Saturday mid-mornings, and then be more relaxed until Sunday around 5 p.m., which is when I would meal prep and plan for my week ahead. That in-between time was for friends or my relationship or football or doing something for myself. But I'll tell you, this time in my life took all of the patience I had because I was just so excited for what was to come. I was so eager for this chapter to come to a close that whenever I got antsy, I would have to repeat my mantra to myself, the mantra of, it's not forever, it's for now. And I needed to hustle hard right now and just get through this period of chaos and know that in the very near planned out future, my schedule was going to open up and I was going to be able to breathe again. Heck, I was ready to quit my job in November of 2021, but my roommate at the time had also just quit her job, and I felt that would be reckless of me to do. And I knew I would get annoyed by her also being home all the time, so I stuck it out to my original timeline of March and also wanted to save a little bit more as I had not reached my financial goal yet. So, March finally came. I found an apartment to move to, which is where I still live. And I knew that sooner rather than later, I was going to need a mentor of my own. I had no idea what I was doing business-wise. I had some clients, but didn't know how to create more. I didn't know what building a sustainable business looked like, or even how to renew with my existing clients or how to have these conversations. I also had spent some time listening to very successful entrepreneurs, and all of them, literally every single one of them said, you need a mentor or a coach, but you definitely need someone to show you the ropes. You're a fool if you think you can be fully self-employed on your own. The experts didn't say that, but I'm saying it. They for sure implied it. Just trust me on that one. Honestly, I think you're a fool if you're trying to aspire to your next level or change your current way of life to something better all on your own. You need to spend the money, cough, cough, invest in the right way in order to make money or to reach your next level. Our human brains fight our dreams every step of the way, so you need someone on your team who is going to fight with you so you know for sure you're going to win. So I began the search for my own coach. And I stumbled upon my current coach, who I've been with for almost 3 years now. And she was a guest on here when talking about being a service-based entrepreneur. Her name is Stacy Brous-Russell. I found Stacy in an alumni Facebook group from my coaching certification when she commented on someone else's post with her podcast to help them out with something business related. So I commented and asked for her to send it to me too, and so began the coaching partnership. I picked my coach not because of her success or her history or having a podcast, but solely because she graduated from the same certification as me, so she knew exactly where I was starting my business from. She got it. She got me. I didn't have to explain what I knew or how I helped my clients because at that point in time, I was still using the done-for-you 90-day program my certification provided, and Stacy knew that's where I was at with my business. She helped me create my own program, which is my Own Your Life system that I still use today, and it's a proven framework to help any 20-something get their life together and develop the confidence they need to succeed. Or in other words, create a solid foundation in the way you show up every day so you can take risks and try new things knowing you have something to fall back on just in case it doesn't pan out in the way you had hoped, and feel confident about the decisions you are making along the way. She taught me how to talk about what I do and why you absolutely need me as your coach. She taught me how to add value so people can experience coaching in a low commitment way. She taught me to see my goals differently, to set goals for 3 months at a time or 1 quarter instead of each month, which is now what I teach my clients to do. She taught me my own confidence in myself and in my coaching practice, and that it's okay to be calculated, as a 33-year-old in a bar once told me, or that being different than my peers is what makes me the most valuable resource for them to confide in and seek direction and support from. I mean, I could go on and on about how working with my coach has helped me keep my feet planted on the ground 3 years later. But the point I'm getting at with this episode is you absolutely, 100%, without a doubt, need a mentor or a coach who did what you're trying to do and specializes in helping you do so. It's why I can confidently help other 20-somethings know what it takes to be self-employed and the lifestyle that is required to get there. My own entire story is in relation to my career, which is why I became a career life coach to help my other young adults navigate the most confusing decade of their life. So outside of finding a coach or a mentor to help you, I've already mentioned this a little bit earlier, but you need to be able to plan. So under that topic, outside of planning your finances is your time management and how you're showing up for yourself and for the business you're creating day in and day out, especially if you're in the transitionary period where you haven't reached the point of leaving your full-time job yet. It's a lot of time management and organization that has to happen for you to set yourself up for success. So what is your relationship to time? Is there not enough of it? How can you make more of it? That's where meal prepping or planning your meals out ahead of time, working out before work, and even knowing the day you need to do laundry comes in handy. And also when you get to take a break and have some fun. Then it's also planning out your goals, knowing what you're working towards and for how long. Is it 3 months, a year, 5 years? Until you want to accomplish XYZ, regardless of what it is, you need a rough timeline right now that will inspire you to take action in this direction. There's a famous saying by Bill Gates that most people overestimate what they can achieve in 1 year and underestimate what they can achieve in 10 years. It's why I like to set general yearly goals and more specific quarterly goals, and then tell everyone to throw their 5-year or 10-year plan out the window. Then outside of all of that planning, it's also planning for what that transition from employed to self-employed looks like. How will you be structuring your day once you leave your job so you don't fall into lazy habits and are forced back into the corporate world after an unsuccessful attempt to try things on your own? You don't have to be type A to be a planner, because planning comes in many different forms. But you need to know what's going to work for you and support you without burning yourself out in the process, and before you make the full and complete decision to leave your full-time job behind. But overall, the path to self-employment revolves around the most important paradigm that I teach my 20-somethings. And I've said it on this podcast several times, so I'm going to say it again. And that is, you need to be able to think with your future self in mind. Entrepreneurship is not something you just one day wake up and decide for yourself. It's a process that you work up to. It is a grind. It does require a lot of work. It is extremely stressful. And it is not for everyone. If it were easy, then everyone would be doing it. But that's not to deter you away from pursuing your own endeavors. It's to help you think realistically about the business and life you can create or want to create. It's essentially asking you, do you have what it takes? How on top of your life are you? Do you think about how the actions you're taking today are going to impact some future version of you? Or is your dream of being self-employed just that? A dream. It sounds harsh, I know, but I think since the pandemic and the evolution of TikTok and influencing and brand deals, etc., the self-employed life has been glamorized, and it's not all that glamorous. All you're seeing is your favorite TikToker's day in the life, where they wake up at 9, go for a walk, make this amazing breakfast, take a midday Pilates class, see a friend for lunch, do 3 hours of work, and then have a nightlife to wrap up their Wednesday. It's a bunch of bullshit. Sure, some people get lucky and go viral and can build off of that, but that's not happening for everyone. Nor have they made a plan to sustain their life long term after TikTok eventually gets deleted or outdated, or how taxes come into play with their brand deals and influencer fund money. So don't believe what you see on social media. It's all a front. Don't get me wrong, there are definitely a lot of upsides to being self-employed that you can look forward to. Like, I can never get fired. Any lull in my day doesn't feel like a waste of time anymore, and my soul feels fulfilled. But I can't plan ahead for my finances. I work really long days of 12 plus hours Monday through Thursday, since usually Fridays are some normal 9-hour day. And any success or failure that comes my way is all on me. I mean, even recording this podcast right now is considered work, and I'm recording it on New Year's Eve. It is 5:23 p.m. on New Year's Eve, but this is something I had to get done today before I can go and enjoy myself tonight. And it's also not to mention that the self-talk that happens in my brain if I'm hitting a slow period in my business. There's the fear of rejection in all parts of my life, since that also comes with having a business. And there's the constant level of stress I'm under to be successful. Again, leading it back to it's all on me. There's a lot of power in that, but also a lot of pressure at the same time. It's why I tell people that unless the business that you're wanting to create is your undying passion, your reason for existing, the wind beneath your wings, the sunshine on a cloudy day, then you should stay in the corporate world and seek out your passion as a hobby. I strongly urge you to not become self-employed if the only reason you're wanting to quit your 9 to 5 and do your own thing is so you don't have to work under someone else. There needs to be more heart and soul behind that reason, because there are going to be some really tough days, if not seasons, that's going to make you question what you're even doing. But if you made this decision from your heart and your passion, then that's what keeps you in line with your North Star. And that's what makes you a resilient, successful entrepreneur. So, if after listening to this episode, you're thinking you can totally become self-employed, then I applaud you. go find your mentor. Psst. It can be me to help you get started. Either way, now you know what it takes to become a self-employed 20-something. This is how I did it, and this is what I help my clients focus on so they can do it too. So, if you liked what you heard, if you want to leave your job within the next few years, or if you know someone who does, then please share this episode. Send it to a friend, post it on social media, do something to help my self-employed journey as well as the other 20-somethings in this world wanting to go down this path. Otherwise, this does conclude another episode of How to 20-something. Thank you, as always, for listening. And you know the drill. I can't wait to be in your headphones again next week with another brand new episode.